how I will set this up. Hello, sorry for all the hiccups. I have had some tech errors, and so I'm going to try to figure this out on the fly on my phone. I wanted to get in before it got too late and it canceled the feed, so I apologize to everyone out there. Hello, Brandon Emmanuel. Can you guys say hello to the audience while I kind of get something set up here?
Yeah, what's up,
Yeah,
audience?
absolutely.
Um,
Hey, what's
I'm
up,
Brand-
man?
I'm Brandon Buchanan. I'm just hanging out with y'all. Just did like I was saying off air, just coming off the back of the Stone Mountain protests. As many of y'all know, Stone Mountain kind of home of the clan.
Mhm.
Market share a little backloggy, but yeah. So they had a big protest to preserve Stone Mountain. Got together with a lot of groups, DSA groups, PSL, NAACP, and we all got together and did a counter protest. Had some very messy moments, and we got through it. I also, I haven't even said this publicly yet, so I'll world premiere this shit here. So I did an interview with Vice Media Saturday, like
Oh wow.
Friday before the protest. So it's very possible that you will see this beautiful blackface on HBO next month. That's going to be very good. Gave him some
Oh,
good quotables. Your man's blowing up, man. It's very great.
Nice,
But
man.
congratulations.
but on a more important perspective, like no fatalities, like a couple minor injuries. Somebody got like their hit banged by a car. Somebody was backing up too fast and all that other stuff. But we're all alive. We're all right, and we're all grateful for that. And that's the most important thing.
Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness.
I know, right?
You guys hear
Emmanuel,
me
how you doing?
perfectly fine and everything, right?
Right.
Sorry,
Right.
so sorry about all the
You're
headaches.
good.
Just trying to make sure.
You
Oh,
you
not
sound a
gonna
little better. I think you got it now.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
What did you end up doing? Because people love inside baseball discussions on live streams.
all right. So, what I decided to do is, I'm getting the lag somewhere from my laptop, and the problem is progressed obviously from week to week, and so we've isolated that. It's definitely something going on with my sound. So what I figured out for right now in the meantime is since I have no problems streaming from my phone, um, I'm able to keep my laptop going so I can moderate the chat and things like that, and then I'll just stream live from my phone to handle it that way for now. So that's kind of what I've worked out, and hopefully it works for the time being. I'll figure out another solution hopefully before the end of next week.
Is this a solution that your patrons could solve for you?
Well, they definitely can. I am just a humble average guy, just trying to put out a message to you guys, and
I
I'm
understand
not
that.
out here like some of these people who are trying to say whatever they can or jump on whatever hot topic. I try to talk about the issues that I feel that are important that we all need to be talking about. So if you want to help in any kind of way, to further that cause, I will put my Patreon in the link at the end of this one, and you guys can definitely reach out. And if Brandon or Emmanuel have Patreons, I know that they both have projects that they're working on that they could probably use a little bit of help to push them along also.
Well, Emmanuel, I'll let you plug your thing. Well, actually, talk about what you've been doing this week before you get into the cheap plugs.
Right.
What's happening
Okay.
in your world?
Right. I didn't know anything about and I live in Georgia. I didn't even know about the Stone Mountain March.
What part of Georgia
and,
you live in?
Up near Dunwoody, Sandy
Oh
Springs.
shit, we could like kick it in real life, dog. I didn't even know you
Right,
were in
so-
Atlanta. Damn. All right, cool.
Right. So, I've been focused on like two things, and then the first one is like they're like doing like an autistic Black Lives Matter table where there's like six of us on like the spectrum, and we talk about like stuff that autistic and black people have to go through. Autistic black people have to go through. That's like next week, and we were doing like planning and stuff like that this week. And then the second thing was, and Marcus knows about this. The writing group that I write for, Neuroclastic, where they take autistic lives perspectives. You know, she's the founder has been trying to help out this black dude that got like 50, this black autistic dude that got like 50 years with like 40 years suspended. And she kept wanting me to help or talk about it. And to be honest, I wasn't actually going to do it because I was feeling kind of inadequate about it. But then she broke it on. But then she broke down like the entire story, and I was just like, I was totally on board. And I thought the meeting, it was like a Zoom meeting, and it was like it had like, there were like a bunch of us that were black and autistic. There were numerous parents, there were numerous psychologists. So, you know, she had been writing about it for some time, and I didn't really want to get involved because I was like, this seems like it'll get kind of messy, but she broke it down and she told me the story, and I met her, you know, and his mother was also on the line too, and I just really wanted to help. So those two things have been like pretty much dominating the majority of my time. So
Marcus, we set you up. We've stalled for a good 5 minutes. With some
I'm listening in on what you guys are talking about, and I'm going along at the same time because I want to try to moderate the chat once we start getting people in here, like I've been trying to do, and I want to try to throw comments in there also, so I can get everybody involved. So I want to get myself set up because like 2 weeks ago, I kept accidentally like deleting the manual and having to re-add into the stream. So,
but you only did that within like the last 10 minutes or whatever. That wasn't. I didn't hold that against you. I've been having numerous problems since I've been trying to get my podcast running, so I understand.
And I appreciate you for not holding that against me. One of the issues that I feel that I guess we have to talk about is the new vice presidential pick, Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris, we all have our different point of views on Kamala Harris. Why do you think Kamala Harris was chosen?
Emmanuel, I'm gonna let you lead this one off.
Well, let's see. As someone who was actively against Hillary Clinton winning in 2016 and then spending like the next 4 years watching the Democrats just pretty much kind of gloss over any real accountability into why they lost. There wasn't any real autopsy into why they lost. And I said it numerous times is that, you know, I said when Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, 4 years from now, was like, we're just going to end up with like another person who is, you know, who will have the backing of the billionaires and the backing of the other neoliberals, and literally everyone in Hillary Clinton's camp is not only going to get away with it, they're going to help promote this next group of people. And Kamala Harris is just more of the same. I'm not even disappointed at this point. I'm not even surprised. I mean, it's just more, you pretty much just saw it coming. So, I mean, that's really just honestly my take on it. So,
you know, I think we have not, I don't think the left, the Twitter left, the left wing of the American voting population has really come to grips with the degree of control that Joe Biden has over the Democratic Party right now. You know, you win a primary and there's usually some amount of reconciliation that has to be done. You know, Obama was an insurgent and won the campaign, and there had to be a certain amount of reconciliation. And they kind of publicized it as team of rivals. He's an open-minded guy. But y'all got to understand, Barack Obama, and this isn't even a political statement, this is just his personal character, is a very particular person. If there was somebody that he did not want to rock with, he would not rock with them. He's a very picky personality. So this thing was not like him just doing what he felt like. There was a reconciliation process between the powerful subgroups in the party. And the left being and it's kind of funny because when we say the left, we have to really specify what we mean, because
By the left,
in order to have a conversation, it changes like based on what we're talking about. So by the left in this particular conversation, I mean Elizabeth Warren and to the left of that. So the left has no leverage in any of these discussions. Like if you're one of those Liberty Green emoji fucking background people, you really have not had any say in any of these proceedings. If you're a Bernie Sanders person, you have not had any say in any of this shit. Joe Biden like has coup de grace this bitch via completely like shoving out the second place person, and also the third and fourth and fifth place people who ran were such total embarrassments that they have no leverage in the party. That's literally why they all endorsed. If you remember, Obama had that meeting with Pete, and Obama didn't tell him, hey, endorse Biden or I'm gonna break your legs. He, and this was according to Pete, said just like he told me my leverage was where it was and I needed to make a move based on my leverage. Though that's according to Pete. So Obama got on the phone, was like, make your next move your best move. And Pete was like, I went the road. I'm a Rhodes Scholar or whatever the fuck. I get what he's telling me. He doesn't have to say it out loud. Just get on board or get your ass run over. So, especially because Pete in particular is in Indiana. It's a red state. He's not going to win shit there for the rest of his life. So his only career move is to be drafted to go to Washington. So his whole thing, he was going to be on the winning team no matter what happened. But anyway, so Joe Biden wins and he has full leverage and control. So he's already made this move, to get a woman candidate as vice president. And that's kind of good because he's got like a demographic, whatever there. Now, the issue there is they had the meeting with Joe Biden and Chris Dodd, who was the head of the committee, all of them. And they said, who can we get that's going to be a team player? Say what you want about Joe Biden. He was a team player for Obama. He was basically Obama's hype man. I said this before on a different show. He was Obama's hype man. So what he's looking for as he runs for president, he's like, I already did this for Barack for 8 years. So I've done the sidekick role, right? So he's looking for a hype man. So obviously he wants a woman hype man because that's like the demographic right now. And it's good if he gets a black woman hype man because that's the demographic right now. But understand, this wasn't like a concession to any sort of power, any sort of movement. It's just like, I want somebody that's going to be my hype man that's from this racial and ethnic group, and they are going to act right. And the whole reason why there was hesitation over Kamala, because they were not sure that she was going to act right. So the fact that she was picked means Joe is like, I am sure that this person's going to act right when I pick them. So what it means to me that Kamala Harris got, selected is that nothing, because there's no political leverage behind her decision. Nobody put a gun to Joe Biden's head. Nobody said people will be mad if you don't pick Kamala Harris. So it just means Kamala works, but like, what does it mean when the manager at Burger King hires somebody to make the fries? Like, it just means the fries are going to get made. Like, not to be fucking just fucking go in. But the fact is, like, that is what Joe Biden is looking for from a vice president. That is what Kamala Harris is going to provide, is to be like the hype man of the right ethnic makeup. So I don't have strong feelings about it because I guess I'm cynical, but that's the role she's in right now.
See, I wanted to ask that question because I've been trying to think, okay, it is what it is. But let me try to play out, just a couple of multiple pathways to try to, see where this thing shakes out. And what I look at, what's going on with the economy and all that, sorry about the noise out there, but I look at what's going on with the economy and what's going on with the COVID thing. By the time January comes around and they do assume office, and let's take it, a couple of years down the road. Let's say Joe and Kamala, they're in office 2.5 years, because somebody made they made a theory of, 2 to 3 years down the road, Joe's definitely going to have to step down. Kamala would be, inserted as the new president. And what is the state of the country at that point when Kamala is when she's taking over? And then what is that going to look like at a re-election bid with that kind of economy? And my theory is there's going to be a lot of outrage at that point. What's going on?
Marcus, do you know what a glass cliff is?
Glass cliff? No, please explain.
There's a concept in business called the glass ceiling. And that is, you can be a woman in a business and you can work your ass off and you will only get to a certain point because there is just something that's breaking you from getting up to upper management. There is also a concept called the glass cliff, which is if they put in a woman in charge, it's not that she's going to fuck it up necessarily, but things have already been fucked up to the point that people are like,
but they don't really care.
Yeah, what do we have left to lose? We can get a fall guy in here, and if we get a woman in charge, it's like, oh, we're turning a fresh page. But like, they're not putting in this patriarchal fucking makeup. We're not putting a woman in charge until the shit's about to hit the fan anyway. And that woman ends up kind of being like the fall guy for like what goes down. Unfortunately, and this isn't unfortunately for Joe Biden. This also would have applied to Bernie Sanders, would have applied to Marianne Williamson. If you're an Elizabeth Warren person, I'm not, but it would have applied to her too. The shit's about to hit the fan in America. The shit is about to hit the fan. When it comes to our fucking stock market, the shit's about to hit the fan. Every trick of the trade has been used to kind of keep the money train flowing in these stocks, and all that's going to dry up. Because it's fucking smoke and mirrors. It can only hold on for so long.
Yep.
If you look at this police brutality situation, people were genuinely shocked when the Bernie bros did not go along with Bernie, and we're not like, where's the support for Joe Biden? It's like, no, those people are sitting out. That same shock is going to come in January when they're like, oh, Joe Biden's president. Why are people protesting? That's all that shit that's happening right now. I think is going to continue. It's just the left. I'm sorry. Now I've got to change the left. You see what I mean? Like, all right, now by the left, I mean, let's change the word to liberals. Liberals are going to attack the left like immediately on January because it'll be like, why aren't y'all falling in line? Why are you still hitting the streets? Oh, Black Lives Matter is over. So everything is going to continue in January, and it's going to be really rough. It's going to be a rough 2 or 3 years. And unfortunately for Biden, Harris, whoever, they are going to spend most of their time cleaning this shit up more than, oh, we've got like some bold new initiatives. That shit's just, the media can just make a new reality like that. And so when some new news comes in February, everybody who is here talking about like the Green New Deal and shit, that won't be in the news no more. Like, it'll be like, oh yeah, y'all were talking about Medicare and shit, but now the stock market is in free fall and we got to do a bailout. Like, we could easily be here in February talking about the fucking Joe Biden, Kamala Harris bailout. It's just totally different priorities. So I don't have huge hopes because world events and social events and political events are going to be fucking lit. Y'all see the Arctic Ocean is on fire right now? Have y'all seen that in the news?
I've heard about it. Tell me more, because I've just caught a little bit of it so far.
Bro, the radar scans of the Arctic, the temperature rates have gone way up in the last few months. And the numbers that scientists had as like, this could be the worst case scenario in the year 2050. That shit's happening right now. So all of it, like, the real cover up was the scientists have been downplaying how bad climate change is because they do not want to set off a panic and be accused of being hysterical. But all of this shit is hitting the fan way sooner than we thought. Think of Australia. The whole continent of Australia was on fire like 8 months ago, and that shit's not even in the news anymore. But none of this stuff is like, the news cycle might happen according to the dictates of like Viacom and Time Warner, but life is not. Like the stock market is not, the movements are not, the environment is not. All these things are going to be like faced and dealt with whether we are ready or not politically to deal with them. And that's like the big theme that's 2020. And I think it's also going to be the big theme of 2021, dog. Like crises are going to ferment themselves. Like this COVID shit that nobody knew was happening a year ago and just came to a head. Like shit's going to come to a head, I think, in my opinion.
That's what I expect, and that's like kind of what I'm trying to get people to think about and at least prepare themselves for. I'm not an anarchist or anybody who's wishing for any of these things, but I do want people to be safe in these times for what may come. You know, desperate times normally lead to desperate measures for a lot of people, and that's one thing which I always keep in mind, because the areas I grew up in, you always had to watch your back. And a lot of people grew up not having to do that or not having to live that way. And when you haven't had to live that way and everybody around you turns into wolves, you know, it can be a scary dog eat world.
I think, you know, as we go into the dog eat dog world, like number one, I know you know this, we also can't forget people do have humanity, and people will insist on their humanity even as we go through hard times. And like we're here on a panel of 3 black men, we've all done that and experienced that for ourselves. No matter how hard shit gets, you had an uncle that was just determined to do the right thing. You had some aunties that was determined to do the right thing no matter what happened. And we won't lose that, like no matter what. But it's funny that you say that, because as all this Trump shit was going down, I was thinking like one of the reasons why white people are like existentially upset at Trump is because Trump treats white people the way every other U.S. president treats black people. Like we have lived with that shit for a long time. Like we are used to being like openly disrespected and shit, or you know, having a job and just being fucking thrown on your ass. Like that's Sister Soldier. That's like 1992. So the idea of Trump just being, you got to go, I don't like you anymore. And they're like, what are the safeguards? What are the guardrails? It's like, yo, we haven't had that shit ever. Like you're just coming into our world for kind of a moment of that, like that move the football forward, everything for me, nothing for you kind of deal. Or you can only exist in this space as long as you gratify me and do what I say and appeal to my ego. That's like most black people's interactions with white people at work, right? Like it's, oh, we've got to dance around this person who acts like a baby. Like bring in a black woman and talk about their job. They're going to tell you like some stories that's basically like these people who are working for Trump and going, oh, we've got to just, we have to treat this person like a small child and walk them through shit. Like any professional black woman will be like, yeah, that's how it be. Like, so yeah, it's rough, but it's not unheard of. Like these times are not unheard of, and people who've been through it, and there's poor white people that also know like what's up for different reasons, but like especially black people, like we know what's up.
It's funny you brought up some of those things in particular, because I just made a video. I wanted to wait a little bit about after the John Lewis funeral to, you know, be able to feel free to say some of the things about his record I felt like should be said. But even though that wasn't focused mostly on John Lewis, this was focused on Bill Clinton and his comments towards Kwame Ture. And Sister Soldier was one of the things which I brought up to show, you know, some of the racist stuff which Bill Clinton did. And then that goes back to a video I did not too long before that, after Joe Biden was talking about Trump being the first racist president. And I'm like,
oh my God.
For black people, I mean, what? We can probably count on our hand the presidents that we don't consider racist.
Right.
It's just something that we get used to. It's not even something that we factor in. We already factor, that's baked into the cake, that there's some levels of racist.
Marcus, you want my blazing hot take? And like, my blazing hot take is like people are like super mad at Biden for like sexual assault, and that's incredibly horrible. That's horrific. However, the office of the presidency of the United States Like, think of the atrocities that every single president has committed. Like, Obama bombed like 9 countries. George W. Bush started, like, just from a pure, like, I think we get mad at sexual crimes or animal abuse or things like that because there's such a power imbalance that it's like, you didn't even theoretically have anything to gain from doing this. Like, it's a crime of cruelty, and cruelty, like, can offend a human being, like, on a deeper level than just evil. Like, you can be evil and just do evil shit, and people are like, that's the game. But, like, cruelty, like, if you watch a movie or hear a story, cruelty sticks to people's ribs. Like, God, you didn't even have to do that shit. So I understand people being uniquely angry at Biden because this Tara Reid thing, he didn't have to do it. But I also want to point out that the office of the presidency literally does shit more evil than that every day. Like, just from a numerical perspective. Yeah, it's messed up. It's messed up.
Oh, I noticed in the chat we got Chris, friend and co-host of the show, saying hello, and his comment was that was a joke, Trump being first racist. Exactly. I mean, anybody who knows anything about history knows that majority of the first presidents were racist. I mean, were slave owners, in fact. I mean, you can't sit there and teach kids about the Trail of Tears and then say, oh, well, this is the first racist one. Now, the one thing about history is it's so crazy and nuanced and dicey, because if you focus on just, oh, this person's a racist, then you can miss out on some things that they might have did that's what one comedian made the joke. He's like, America to black people is like that uncle who molested you but sent you to college.
Wasn't that Chappelle? It was Chappelle or Rock. It was one of them.
Chappelle. And that's what it is. And most of these presidents and CEOs and top people who run things, they've done great things, but they turn around and done all this horrible stuff also. You have these people who have built schools or whatever, and then they've run, mines with like 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, and they're getting black lung. I mean, these people, and then since they have so much power, they decide we're going to frame the narrative however we want to. And then both sides just argue on, no, you're actually this. No, you're actually that. No, and so they just argue on the perceptions each side has of each other without reflecting on, no, y'all did some good and you all did a lot of dirt too. So let's just air it all out if we're going to talk about it.
Emmanuel, what do you think?
Well, as a be specific. Are you talking about in regards to the
whole idea of like Trump being our first racist president? How much racism do you expect from a president? How much racism will you tolerate from a president? Where do we draw the line in just evaluating political figures? Because like some people will like put it on for Bill Clinton, and if you corner them on it, they'll be like, okay, we know he wasn't that good, but I like him. Or if somebody talks about Obama, they'll be like, yeah, we know he did bad stuff, but you know what? I like him. So where do you personally draw the line? Can you like a personal politician and be like they're good for a politician, or do you hold them up to like the standard of, are they working to deconstruct this system and make a better world? How do you juggle how much you like a political actor?
Merely I have to watch their actions, because most of the time what they say is starting from 1960 on, where you're talking about like covert racism. It's not implicit racism. I mean, no one's going to go around saying, N-word, N-word this and N-word that. So I have to watch their actions. I have to watch if they, it's their actions that I have to watch more than anything. And then, of course, being on Twitter and watching things in real time, you have to pay more attention to what they do over what they say, because a politician will pretty much just about say anything, and the majority of the public will just roll over and accept it. And like you were saying last week, Bill Clinton pretty much called out militant blacks and Kwame Ture and stuff like that, and nobody really said anything. And and that's because he's endorsed a lot of black people. He's helped out a bunch of black people. Nobody was really interested in really calling him out, really saying anything about it. So constantly I have to watch their actions. I have to pay attention to their actions. I have to focus on, okay, they did this. What's the underlying meaning behind it? That's my take on it. So,
Marcus, do you have a "Don't feed the trolls" policy on your show?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not even paying attention to them.
No,
never mind.
When I'm on Twitter, I have to do that.
I love feeding trolls on my show, but I'm gonna let you live. All right, go ahead.
I mean, I will occasionally. And you know what? Hey, it's a free flowing Sunday. You know what? And you know what? I gotta go grab my charger real quick. Have Adam for a moment.
Okay, John, you've been up here talking about White Lives Matter for 30 whole minutes, dog. John,
I'm not even looking at the chat. Oh my God.
I have to say, first of all, thank you for being a loyal watcher of the show. And I just want you to know that here all views matter. So if you have friends that you could get to hate watch the Young Black Leaders Forum, please do so, because like we trying to get these view counts up. Like your comments in the chat, like whatever. We're really it's all about the views, And if you are like worried about like black people monopolizing a web show that probably has like that's probably gonna have like 300 views at the end of this bitch, I would just suggest that you go to like CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or Current or Bloomberg or the New York Times or USA Today or the Washington Post or the LA Times or the Miami Herald or the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, where you can find like white people talking about white people stuff like for 24 hours a day. Like, it's cool. And look, it's cool. I like the Arcade Fire too. Like, it's fine if you just want to like watch white people do white people stuff for a few minutes ago. Oh yeah. But like going to a totally different thing, and it's like, this is 3 black people talking, and then going, I'm mad at even the idea of this, and I'm going to be yelling for half an hour. By the way, like you realize that if somebody watches a stream like this for like more than 5 minutes, like it counts a lot more for like the metrics and shit, because like I work in marketing, people won't even, the computer doesn't know what you're typing in. It just knows that you're highly engaged. So if you spend like 12 messages trolling us, that actually is great for the show, because Twitter's like, whoever this dude is, they really love the fucking content.
Yeah, and they're going to make sure to send you out more of our content. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe you can bring out more viewers. I don't have any problem.
John Trevino, where do white women at? No, I'm playing.
Because see, the one thing I know is I do my research on my own. I do my homework. I have an open mind to things which I'm not entirely, that I don't have all the information on. And so by leaving myself open to information that I might not be an expert on, and by being certain on the things I do know, I don't let somebody like that ever try to push me off my step, because this person is somebody who is insecure about themselves. And so they feel a need to try to pull down somebody else because they have so many issues going on with themselves. So it's easier to focus on others than to focus within.
Yeah, John, you can, if you were a patron, think about how much people would boost you. So like, go give some money, and then we could literally do a whole episode about the problems that white people are facing right now. Because I see you care about, it's funny how people care about like literally quote police brutality against whites. Like, well, why isn't there like an organization like doing that? Because when some shit goes down, literally Black Lives Matter will cover a fucking police brutality against white people faster than like the NRA will. I find that fucked up and hilarious. But anyway, I just had to get in a little bit on that subject.
Well, it's just like something that was trending on Twitter. That say his name, and I can't remember the kid's name exactly, and I'm not going to actually buy into that by even saying anything because I know what they're trying to do.
Right.
The person who shot him, yes, that was tragic, and the black man who shot him was apprehended right after. I don't know, or allegedly shot him. I don't know the whole story, but the fact of the matter is he was arrested, and none of us at all think that there's a possibility that he's just going to walk out the next day and everything's going to be perfectly fine. Whether he did it or whether he didn't do it, there's a strong possibility he is going to jail for the rest of his life. So what we're talking about when we're talking about say their name, there's still people like Breonna Taylor who still has not received justice. There's still the whole Ahmaud Arbery thing where we don't know how that's gonna go.
Elijah McClain.
There's so many. Was Elijah McClain? You said there's so many stories out there that we have of this, and what we see by the statistics is 99% of the time officers are not even charged, and then of those who are charged, it's something like 40% which are convicted. And then if you look at the convictions, what those sentences are. The sentences, majority of the time, 90% of the time, are under 10 years. And so we're talking about, of the smallest percentage which actually get convicted, majority of those people get convicted roughly about 6 years. And now what's going to happen to that young man, whether he did it or he did not do it? We can definitely expect probably 30, 40 years, death penalty, almost certainly.
I mean, we've seen cases. The only cases that I seem to find where cops get convicted is like it's a black cop shooting a white woman. But like I remember that in Minnesota, and everybody was like, "This injustice will be punished." And I'm like, "Yeah, I bet it will. I bet it will."
I bet it would.
How are we not all just destroyed by cynicism at this point?
Right.
Like,
I don't know how we can just keep going, man. I mean,
this shit is
sometimes
almost comedic. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes it feels like you have to. Sometimes it's like you laugh to stop from crying some days, and then like 12 years ago when that recession happened 12 years ago, I was like, okay, it was bad, but at least I won't have to go through another one. And then 12 years later, I was like, well, damn. Well, all I had to do was really laugh about it.
If you're like,
go ahead, Brandon.
If you're like 24, 25, like your whole life has been one recession after another. You don't even remember, like, especially if you were born in like 94, 95, 96, you don't even remember prosperity. Like that's something that's from a economic prosperity is some shit from a book. Like, oh yes.
But now that makes me ask the question. Is it better to have went through it and just had to weather this storm your whole entire life? Or is it better to have lived a little bit of it and watched it go to crap? Watching it go down, because you look at like say for me, for instance, on my birthday, I'll turn 40. So I got to watch it kind of crater, but got a little bit more of the good before, like say the kids born in the 90s or 2000s.
Are you going to change the name to just the regular Black Leaders Forum when you turn 40?
Well, anytime I talk to older people, they're like, "You only 40, baby. You still a baby. You don't know nothing yet."
I'm 34.
Right.
I have all those same conversations. Like, "Oh, you still a baby." Yeah, I know.
Then you get the older ones, and they be like, "Well, you don't know nothing until you're about 50, about 55. That's when you learn something. That's when you learn something, boy. You still come on over here. Let me feel that. I feel that water. That's water. You're still wet behind the ears."
Let me ask you something. What do you decide? What do you think of as good as a result of coming up through the system? Is it good like more radical? Is it good like more conscientious? Is it good like a better human being? Like when we say, is it better to have grown up during one age or another, what's your goal? What do you think of as like a positive outcome?
Well, it's not necessarily a goal. I just think wondering how it shapes the perspectives on what we're facing. Because, like for instance, if you had a bike and then somebody stole your bike, you remember that bike a little bit more. It's another thing being the kid who's always wanted the bike but never had the bike,
but never could get one.
You know what, man? I think it's kind of the same because, like, both of us, I'm getting to an age where I've just started to call myself older, but like, it's only because I'm like surrounded by like 19 and 24, like 19, 20, 21 year olds. But anyway, as slightly older people, like, we have a lot more in common economically with the kids who are like 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 than we do with the people who are 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, because there's such a wide economic gap that those experiences that are had in common, are had in common. The big difference is, like, millennials were told that we would get a certain amount of prosperity. The big difference is we were raised to expect that prosperity, especially because a lot of us grew up during the 90s, which was the fucking .com era, and everything you saw in the news was business, 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 through the roof, through the roof, through the roof. So we were just shocked because as soon as we came up, like, oh, by the way, Chief, the money is gone. Don't worry about money. Like, you will be fucked up for the next 20 years. And sorry, man. And everybody's just been fucked up over it. Whereas these kids who are growing up now are more radical because they've seen this income inequality and they've been trained to never expect shit because they grew up in a fucking recession. One of the reasons why they are like way to the left of the boomers and kind of to the left, like to the left of us as a generation, is because working class politics was forced on them. Like there was no alternative to being poor, realistically, unless you're like in Rise and Grind Black Twitter and they believe in magic. But the rest of us, like, goddamn.
Manuel, I want to answer that too, but Manuel, I want to hear your take on that. Like how do you feel? Being your generation, your age, how it fits as far as, because I agree with a lot of what Brandon's saying, but it's a couple of things where I feel I feel like it's a little bit different.
Right, I'm a year. Well, my birthday was last month. I'm only a year older than Brandon, so on one hand, yes, I have seen incredibly wild radicalism amongst the younger people, and I am significantly grateful by the fact that these older people are telling them to go out and vote, and these younger people are just like, nah, we're just gonna march. We're gonna cause some destruction. We're gonna march in the streets. We're gonna upset your day. We're gonna make you uncomfortable. They seem to be more comfortable about being uncomfortable. Then, on the other hand, I know that if the last recession hadn't happened, I would have never, I never would have gotten tested for being autistic, because I got tested for being autistic at a late age. And then even with this concurrent problem, right, I would have never been sitting here with you. I would have never written anything. I never would have been featured in the Washington Post. So, this problem made me go out and say, you know what? I'm about to go through another recession. I just need to go out and be as uncomfortable as possible and stretch myself and see what I can do, and then maybe gain some new friends and skills along the way. So maybe that's just a little bit of my optimism left, or maybe it's because I'm a continuous learner. I don't know. But, the days of just expecting that my job is... the days of me expecting that, like, my job's going to stick around or I'm going to be living in the same place, those days are over. So, just...
See, I guess the only difference
I have to manage my cynicism with optimism. No, go
That's
ahead.
right.
I see. I guess the only difference I say, generationally, which I feel is the because they like reclassify me into millennial and being basically Gen X for most of my life and a lot of the shared experiences. I have a lot of the same upbringing and cultural experiences, more of the generations maybe 10 years older than me. But economically and job perspective and culturally now, I have what most millennials and Gen Z are going through. And so it's kind of like when you're stuck right in the middle of two poles in a sense, because when they talk about Gen X, they talk about latchkey kids. That's me and most of the kids I grew up with. When we talk about, Reagan and all those things, we remember all that stuff vividly, going to the drive-in. It's just a lot of things which about the 80s
Right.
where if you were at a certain age, especially as a kid, it was a much simpler time and it felt like a much more innocent time. And I feel like kids who grew up in the 90s, they hit kind of a loss of that innocence a little bit more. And the kids, by the time 9/11 hit, a lot of those kids' innocence was basically gone. And so
Right.
I look at
First that.
America as, when I was a kid, it was more like in the rebellious teenage phase. By now, you guys are getting it as, the drunk alcoholic on the couch. America's a little bit, not quite the same for these generations, coming up. Oh, sorry, that was it.
No, that was very good.
That was good, man.
Yeah, you've lived through a lot. Listen, you've got all the good history of hip hop. Like you've got
Oh
the
yeah,
whole
I got the golden
spectrum.
years, man.
And as like a millennial, we also got the entire technology experience from like
Right.
zero internet to like the crazy digital world. Like that's a unique generation in all of history. Like
Exactly.
that's
Right.
a generation where you grew up riding horses, and then when they made cars. Like
Yeah.
we've seen a lot just in terms of like human progress, and hopefully like we don't have to see shit hit the fan.
And that's like what I wanted to point out, because I wanted people to be able to notice that the millennial generation, with the whole tech age and how things have advanced and streaming and all these things, Gen X people are people who are kind of on that border. We can't sit there and try to take credit like, oh, this is all our stuff and all that. We're just like a lot of our older peers who are trying to catch up and learn a lot of these things, which, what is it? I can't even remember the generation after millennials, but that generation
Gen Z.
are learning a lot
It's Gen Z.
Yeah. They're learning a lot of this stuff straight through computers and computer learning. Well, we're doing a lot more stuff by hand, and I think it just makes a difference now that the age is completely across the board changing. Everybody has to catch up and get on, and so that's something that, I also feel like because there was a sense of that communication across the board, it allowed millennials and Gen Z to be able to communicate in ways which they never were
That's
before,
right.
in ways to educate in ways they never could before. And I feel like that is also helping, more Gen X and those hybrids in between, like myself and even the baby boomers, because where I try to push back on some of us on the left, especially Black leftists, because we can be rough on some of those of our older peers who are a little bit more stubborn. What we got to understand is they don't have the access to this information, and if you barge yourself off from certain things, you're not even going to know what's going on to be able to have certain point of views.
They have a totally different conception of what is possible, like because they grew up in a completely different age. So, like
That's right.
Sai said, went from stuffing tissue and top of tapes to streaming in 20 years. Yeah, and like we had technology magazines like that would be like one day. In fact, my mom has an old copy of Yahoo magazine, right? But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, with Prince, and Prince was talking in like 97 or 98 about like one day we're gonna have like a jukebox feature with the internet where you can just pull up a song and pick it and play the shit when you feel like it. And Prince was talking science fiction. It was just like Prince is what a weirdo, this dude Prince. But like that's regular ass life now.
That's exactly what
Well,
happened.
I mean,
That is what
I got a
happened.
story just like that when I was a kid. I remember I was probably about like 8, and I was like, why can't we just fast forward TV? And everybody in the room looked at me like I was the dumbest person they had ever seen before.
But
And I'm like,
skip commercials.
we have a TV guy, and it tells us all the programs that are going to be, played for the entire month. How do we know all the programs, but we can't fast forward through them? And they're like, whatever, that just can't be done. And then what do you see, a handful of years
Infomercials
later?
for TiVo,
Mhm.
and there were 2-hour infomercials going. You can stop the TV and then you can rewind. And people thought that was like, I was a little kid. I was like, Mom, we gotta get this. This is crazy. Like that. It's got unlimited space. You don't have to use a tape recorder. Like,
Mhm.
no. And also, like, this isn't just like nostalgia session. That impacts your politics. That impacts your perception, because politics is literally nothing but your perception of what you think is possible. That's literally all it, like the whole Democratic Party, that all these arguments are just like people with a lot of money of like nothing is possible. And everybody else been like, no, if we got together and did this shit, we can do it. And a lot of younger people are like, we're gonna get together and just literally do this shit. And
Right.
we're always very happy for them. But like, I think there's gonna be cross-generational solidarity between us and like the kids more than there was between the adults and us when we were that age, because the economics are so different. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like one thing that I've been thinking for the longest, and this is even before, like this is when I was probably like maybe 19, and I was first studying, well, not 19, I was a little bit older when I was studying to be a teacher, and I was studying secondary education to be a history teacher, and what I started to notice is that there were things that just stuck out to me, and nobody really focused on them. I noticed that every single crash, every single recession, every single ups and downs and wars and all that were always involved around banks. And I thought it was odd that we never, ever, ever talk about banks. And I can understand why. Those people in those corporations who are at the top, and they understand who their real bosses are. And I'm just I'm gonna say it like this. You guys can take it however you want to. Bankers, the federal banks, the people who own the federal banks, whoever you want to say they are, Illuminati, not Illuminati, Bilderbergs. You want to say it's Peabody James. You want to say it's Mickey Mouse. I don't care who you say it is. But
right.
Anytime you have an entity which is unregulated around the world, which literally controls and funds, whatever you want to do, whatever project you want to do, whatever. I mean, you think about it, our rails, our bridges, our everything were built because wealthy people. In fact, John Pierpont Morgan literally like took a chunk of money and was like, "Here, America, you guys can hold on to this for a while to prop yourself up." This is like the history of our country. I mean, it's on the History Channel. They have a documentary called "The Men Who Built America," and it goes through like how the owning 90% of the oil and all those things like that. And my point to people is, do you think these people stop? Do you think they just say, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to sit back. You don't think that there are family lines have continued. And the only thing which gives me a lot of happiness is that what I've noticed is each generation gets lazier and lazier and lazier than the generation before, and they get more careless and more sloppy. And I feel like by letting the internet loose, letting information flow freely, letting people be able to connect in ways they hadn't before, might also be their own downfall. I think they look at it as a tool to be able to, okay, we know what this person is doing, we know how to sell them this, we know how to market them that, we know, okay, they're here, they're there, those things like that. But the information aspect might be their own downfall because of just pure sloppiness. Just like I look at the Democratic Party, how Joe Biden was like, I don't have to concede with the left at all. I'm going to completely slap you guys in the face. I'm going to pick Kamala Harris. Nothing you're going to do about it. You're going to come out and vote for me, or I'm going to blame you. I mean, it to me, I don't know. Maybe I went all over the place there, but that's how.
I'm going to connect these dots to the degree that I can. But Emmanuel, you go for it and just share your thoughts on the powerful.
Well,
believe in the Illuminati or whatever.
Oh, I was going to talk about the whole, letting people out and saying it's a mess and everything. I think the mess is right. I think the mess is good. I think, maybe it's because I'm a messy person, and I thrive in chaos and stuff like that because I don't really like it when it's like clean and tidy. I kind of like it as a mess. And there was this book I just read about how like people were messy in a messy world, and they succeeded, and they actually they brought up Trump. They brought up the fact that Trump would have a debate, and then he would get on Twitter and then shoot out a whole bunch of insults about his opponent or whatever, and then the opponent didn't know what to do in that regard because it was so unconventional. It was so out there. So even with that aspect, I think
part of the pro wrestling. See, when you're used to people only using certain forms of attack against you in debates, and they know, well, they're not going to talk about this thing over here, and they're going to ignore that, and we're only going to talk about this and this and this, and Trump is like, hey, he just said that about me, whatever, I'm just going to swing for the fences. No matter how dirty I am, I'm going to hit you with whatever dirt that I believe you have. And they didn't know how to react to that. They sit in polite society so long, they don't know how to deal with a mudslinger.
So,
yeah, they are definitely totally unprepared. Listen, I do want to kind of talk about that. And because you're really coming back to nepotism. I don't know whether you knew you were coming back to nepotism, but you are. Like,
it's huge. It's a big part of it all.
So at the root of this is unaccountable power, right? When you get to a high enough level, you can build unaccountable power in an institution. And if the institution is the United States of America, that's a lot of power. And the struggles with the banking industry date back to William Jennings Bryan, like they date back to when they made the country. So our struggles with capital and unaccountability in the banking industry, that's like just built in and baked in. And when we talk about like organizations and societies, like I tend to think the Bilderberg group is literally a group of rich people that's like, they get in the room, they're like, we're all rich. That's really cool. Like, I don't really think of any kind of like, and here's the plan for how we will control things. Because capitalism itself is a mechanism for control. It's literally people obeying incentives in order to make money. So since that mechanism exists on a macro scale, you don't need like a micro scale room of people, Agenda 21, to like set an agenda for what the whole country or the world is going to go through, or what their plan for ultimate domination is, because the plan is just to give bullshit to your kids and for your kids not to have to work. That's everybody's plan.
Well, see,
go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish.
Yeah, the problem is the kids, like when you set that up, when you do too good a job, your kids end up shitty, like because they don't have to work, so they don't know how to work. You know what I mean? If you look at like literally any dynasty, you have a dynasty that goes on for like 3 generations. Look at that 3rd generation. That's a sloppy ass generation. You look at like the Bush family. You have like the one Bush makes a lot of money, and then the kids are fuck ups, and the 3rd generation is bigger fuck ups than that. So there's a certain amount of carelessness that's built in. And we are like at generations of extreme inequality dating back really before Reagan, but let's say Reaganomics, and then through the 90s, and then through the 2000s, and then the 10s and the 20s. We're looking at a totally different group of people. Like the old guard is just getting older, and they've done a great job of fucking holding on to not just power, but like the signifiers of power, which is like credibility. And I don't know whether I've said this here before, but like the whole experience and credibility, like that's all like super classist, racist shit. Like it's all based on like you winning a political office. That is dependent on your ability to raise funds and have a network of friends. That doesn't have shit to do with your qualifications, your ideas, your intelligence, your consideration of others, your ability to read a law and understand any of that bullshit. Like our modern political system is just based on legacy, connections, your friends. How is Joe Kennedy running in Massachusetts basically neck and neck with a sitting senator in a primary? We got all these progressive candidates running primaries, and they're running at like 20%. They're like, well, I got to build some name recognition and try it again. It's nepotism, right? And if you go from Joe Kennedy, daddy, like granddaddy, to JFK, RFK, and Ted, like we're now on generation 3, right? Which is just show up and I have a last name. Everybody, please.
Well, see, I feel like
he tried.
This especially right now in the chat, he would be upset with me if I didn't push back a little bit.
Okay.
When you start studying all the way back through ancient history, and you start studying the families that were sitting next to royalty, that they weren't royalty themselves, but they were advisors, they were generals, whatever.
Courtiers is the word you're looking for, yeah.
Yes, they were part of the court. These people were able to amass, fortune, and then they were able to do certain, work themselves into certain positions. And I mean, we have it in all of our European history and all that about how the royal families were big on incest and trying to keep the bloodlines as pure as possible. That did not only stay, a thing for the actual royal lineage. That was all of those people in the courts, all of those people in high society kept strict bloodlines. And when you keep these bloodlines, it carries on and it carries on. And some people change names and other people get married in and other royal families get married in and things get mixed around. But some of these families know exactly who they are. And what I'm saying is, yeah, we have like the Bushes, and even the Kennedy is a kind of a weird one because, okay, let's just go on ahead and let's just talk straight about Illuminati stuff right now.
Wait, before you get into that, and I'm going to give you a segue. Do you realize that Gavin Newsom is Nancy Pelosi's nephew?
I'm not surprised. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, the Newsoms, the Pelosi's, and the Brown family, Jerry Brown, they're all related via marriage. So while we talk about like dynastic politics, they don't all have the same name. It's just those very close relations. And before I throw it back to you, in medieval times, there was obviously practical reasons for that inbreeding and nepotism, which was you are trying to prevent warfare, right? If you're all in the same family, that leaves less room for a less powerful family to make that fucking power grab because the power was all concentrated anyway. So it was really warfare between the 1% and the 10%. That was like and the rest of us weren't even in the picture.
And I feel like the one thing that everybody always starts to leave out, and if you don't factor this, you don't have to believe in this yourself, but you have to factor this in to any time you're talking about these people in ancient societies and in power. Right. One of the things which they all were big on is religion. Whatever their version of religion was, that was all something that was kept entirely always sacred within those families. And it has not changed. And when you go into Freemasons and you look into a lot of their symbolism, I mean, there's literally one of their handshakes where they turn their hand sideways. That's to reference to some kind of shake, which is within biblical days. So they are all referencing different things, and these bloodlines all pass through. Now, a lot of people think, oh, well, Illuminati is just a broad term, but you have Bilderbergs, you have Skull and Crossbones, you have the Rhodes Foundations, you have foundation after foundation after foundation, which gets spread across where these multiple memberships rest. And I heard like a high level banker, and I have no reason to really doubt this man. I mean, his credentials, backed up. And I'll send you the video if you like. But he talked about when it comes down to it, when you're at the high level of banking and you're shifting money around, he's like, it'll blow your mind. You have terrorists who are shipping money over to this mobster, and mobsters are shipping money to this governments which you would think on the same side, and vice versa. And it's all kind of crazy stuff going on that doesn't make any sense. And what he said is there's roughly about 8 to 10,000 people who are all involved in the deep money transactions at that level. Now, all of them are not making decisions, but they all are. There's certain, the guy says you can see moves that are being made, and then next thing you know, you see a conflict that happens somewhere, and you can see it through all the banking transfers. And the reason why the Federal Reserve, and not only the Federal Reserve, all the Federal Reserves around the world, all the major banks are unregulated. There's a reason behind that. The people who started these banks, and this is documented back to the Warburg family. You go back to James Pierpont Morgan, you go back to the Carnegies and all that in the early foundations of America, the Rockefellers. They literally were the ones who spearheaded these things. And then we talk about the Astor families, and we talk about the Vanderbilts who owned all the railroads. I mean, the Astors literally owned New York. I mean, when you have a family which owns a state, and it's multiple families like that. What they believe is that there's 13 bloodlines. Some of them that we kind of are more familiar, some of them that aren't familiar. Everybody throws out the Rothschilds. Everybody knows that bloodline because it's went back so long, and it's been a family that's had immense wealth, and they own corporation after corporation after corporation. We know about the Rockefellers, but there's families that we don't think much about. The Collins family is a family. The Onassis family, and a lot of people just think of Jackie Kennedy. No, it's her husband who she married, and his wealth and his family and all the money which they had. These people, it's not like, oh, they just got money all of a sudden. These are people who have, till now, have held money for centuries. And when you get that kind of level of money and the interest and how that works, and you have certain belief systems, you do start pushing certain things. Marcus, I don't know what exactly they're pushing, but Marcus, you have the power.
May I posit a theory to you? Why do really rich people act like fucking weirdos?
Because they are.
But like, if I gave you $1 billion, would you become a weirdo?
No.
Yes, you
but
would.
He had life experience prior to that, though.
No,
he had like
$1 billion would turn you into a weirdo, because people would be gassing you like do you know how much money $1 billion is? Like, think of this shit like on a low scale when we talk about like what we would do with money. Like, if we got like 10 G's right now, we would do like some shit to renovate our lives, but it would be normal people shit. $1 billion is like 1,000,000 times that amount of money. So you're going to have people gassing you up to such a degree that all of your weird psychological quirks, people will start like really buying into that shit and really like playing into it. And there's nobody to tell you no.
I'm not talking about the quirks part. I'm talking about, like, for instance, say
wait, I gotta add this. Wait, and I'll throw it right back to you. The Illuminati, the Skull and Bones, all of these foundations, the Rockefellers, all that shit predates Dungeons and Dragons, y'all. these people are like, when you get to a certain amount of money, you have the hierarchy of needs. So Marcus, I'm gonna let you be Agent Mulder, and I'm gonna be Agent Scully. There's the hierarchy.
When it gets to that level,
there's the hierarchy of needs. So once you reach a world where you have no material needs, you start having like emotional fucking needs. You have a need for like excitement and interest and boredom. And once you have $1 billion, you start fucking, I think they start fucking role playing. I think they start having their own. So they're like, I feel like I should have this kind of supernatural power over humanity, but I'm really not. But I don't. Like, I'm just have a bunch of money, people kiss my ass, but I still live inside my own mind. I'm still sad. I have human relationships. My wife doesn't like, my wife's like, oh, my dick is little. I'm out here getting it on the side. Like, I'm pissed off. I'm sad. I'm supposed to have everything I'm supposed to have, but I'm not happy. So how many of these billionaires are like taking DMT or whatever and like getting their emotional shit straight? They're fucked up like everybody else, so they start LARPing.
I'm saying, look at it like this. Just look at it like this. We're not even going to talk about evil or you know, or good. We're just going to talk about, just say you have unlimited money and you just decide you want to do something. Yeah. You decide, say for instance, you know what? I have an oil business and I want that oil. You have the power to literally fund wars by yourself. And what I'm saying is, when you're at that level, those are the things which I'm talking. I'm not talking about when they're trying to get, when people say, oh, well, the reason why this celebrity is wearing a dress or something, because I'm not talking about that. That, I believe, is some kind of other symbolism that has, that's a whole nother alley on a much weirder, smaller, I don't know what that is. I think because I honestly believe that in Hollywood, what they do is, say for instance, say you're a homosexual man or woman or whichever, I believe that they force you to go against that, to shame you in different ways. And if you're heterosexual, I think they force you to go against that. I think that things which you believe in, they try to get you to go against it, just so that they can always have some kind of leverage against you.
That is one conspiracy theory I kind of believe in. I do believe in like we all came up in the hood. Initiations are real. So I actually do think there is like some, you have to degrade yourself in a certain irrevocable way.
And that's what goes into the casting couch.
But I don't necessarily know if I would put that in a organized conspiratorial way. I just think when you have too much shit, your imagination runs wild, and you just start.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that is part of that conspiratorial part, but I'm saying that I do just believe that that's an element of being in show business to a certain level. That those powers that be over you, because of they work like gangsters. Yeah. Their goal is, I'm going to make sure to always have some kind of leverage over you in case you try to leave, in case you try to go to another label, whatever, in case you want to go independent. I think that they always try to keep that control. That's the reason why you see some of these artists where they try to rush through a whole bunch of albums real quick so they can get out of the contract.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, the only reason why the only thing that keeps me from 100% believing in that is because there are people who have nothing to lose, and I feel like they would just say so if there was anything more than what we already know. Like, you know, let's name like somebody that's universally thought of as crazy, and I won't say Kanye. Like Sinead O'Connor. Like, whatever they did to put Sinead O'Connor on, at this stage, she ain't got nothing to lose. She would just say so. So I can't really say if there's a super, like a Wayfair dark. I'm just saying, that's like casting couch dark.
I don't necessarily say at that level, no.
Right.
But I just think it's just a lot of manipulation, a lot of micromanagement, a lot of pressure put on them. Do I believe that some people try to lean into dark spirits on their own? Yes, that's a whole nother talk there.
Yeah, that's another talk.
But I'm talking about, as far as the Illuminati, as far as what I'm talking about is the major events. When we have stock crises and all these things, and countries started to fail, and okay, now they're going to credit this country but not credit that country, or all of a sudden sanctions get passed on this country. What I'm saying is, I believe those are the things which they do.
Oh yeah.
Those
I
are
mean,
the things which they do to push to move the world.
You're describing capitalism, but
yeah, but I'm saying within capitalism, I think where we're missing the mark is we gotta. It's easy to just say capitalism, and it's kind of like one of those things where you're not giving the devil his name. It don't start. I always feel like you gotta follow the money directly, and when you get to the actual source of who the people are who are pulling the strings, and you understand their belief systems and things that they do, it starts making sense. You start seeing certain patterns. I mean, I can't remember who said it, but one billionaire was saying, if you think that I'm a part of an organization that goal is to guide the world in specific ways, I admit I'm 100% guilty. He's saying, yes, I am part of an actual organization that meets, that we say this is what we want to happen, and we start making it move through the top levels of government.
The Bilderberg group does all that publicly. Like they say, hey, we got all the rich people in the room, but here's the thing, they're all ideologically different. So like in the same way that any bureaucrat, like this sounds so science fiction, but like anybody can just look up the Bilderberg group and look up like Kathleen Sebelius, because she goes to their meetings, and they'll just talk about like, but I think where we slightly differ is I don't believe that I feel like there's still a bureaucracy. So I don't believe that they're any more powerful than like a TED Talk. Like I feel like they get together and they're like, these are things that the world should do, and we're all rich, and they clap hands, and then they just go their separate ways.
Like even the people that we hear talking about, like the person who I quoted, I won't say his name, but he's considered one of the big people and things, and I don't even feel like he's anybody who's big on the totem pole. I feel like he's just kind of one of their spokespeople. And the real people who are making these decisions, we never hear or see them.
Emmanuel, do you believe in the man behind the curtain? To what? I mean, this is a spectrum, obviously. So do you believe in like the Illuminati, and to what degree?
I mean, I honestly try to, I try to keep an open mind. I try to, but most of the time, I guess I'm kind of like Brandon. I'm just like, they got a lot of money and they got a lot of time.
Just weird.
Like a good portion of the time, I just feel like they're, I don't know if either one of y'all have seen the that TV show on NBC, The Player, where they got that guy, and that guy goes around and the house takes all their money and stuff like that, and gets them to go around and do all these like horrible things, like around like in the country, or it was like either in Vegas or like around the world or whatever. And they caught, because they literally got like nothing to do. They literally got like so much money, and they're so comfortably well off, they can just pull stuff.
Emmanuel, think of the weird shit middle class white people are into, and multiply that by 100 for a billion.
Right.
Yeah.
So I see where Marcus is coming from. The concept that they're like sitting in a room and they're like plotting to take over things, and there's like a long history of secession and stuff like that. But a good portion of it just kind of feels like, a lot of it's theatrics, a lot of it's for show, a lot of it's just to scare, it feels like a lot of it's just to like scare people, but in reality, they probably just all, sit in a room or conference or whatever off of their yacht, and they just make solid yes or no decisions. I mean,
well, I think that's how the overall meetings kind of go. But I don't know. Like for instance, if you have studied a lot into religion, just in particular, or multiple religions, and I'm talking about deep into Christian religion, Hebrew religion, all the Arabic. Can't even say the word right now, but you guys know what I mean. And then you start going into Hindu, Buddhism, all the different faiths, and start studying things. There are certain symbols which they mean things. And when you see organizations which continuously use symbols,
Marcus,
I don't believe in too many coincidences. That's all.
I've played Dungeons and Dragons. No, I haven't, but I've seen people play Dungeons and Dragons.
I haven't
Symbology
played.
also happens. I think one of the differences between me and a lot of the community is I think all these people worship Mammon. I don't believe they worship Lucifer. I think they worship Mammon, which is just
Exactly.
so.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but yes.
Like, yeah, that's where I'm coming from personally. But yeah,
because I mean, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start bringing these topics out more. I was gonna try to kind of separate this from my channels, but some of this stuff is starting to merge together when you start talking about how this stuff really rules on. Because what I was telling people is you don't have to believe it yourself, but you got to understand these people believe it. I mean, I watched a video documentary, and granted, this is from somebody who I consider absolutely insane, and he just proved it recently. Alex Jones.
okay.
20 years ago, he actually did a crazy thing by sneaking in to this meeting in Northern California, which happens every year, called the Bohemian Grove. At that meeting, all the top world leaders from all over the country come to that meeting. And there's all kind of rumors on stuff which happens up there. The one thing he was able to see is they had a ceremony where they marched a doll, I guess, draped. They're all in their robes and stuff, and they marched a mannequin down there to this 40 to 50-foot statue, which in ancient in a lot of ancient religions, especially like Sumerian and stuff like that, that could be considered Moloch or let's see, or Lilith or different deities, whatever one you want to pick. And they burn this this doll in effigy, and say all these different chants and stuff like that. And then they sweep up the ashes and save them for future ceremonies and stuff. And I'm like, why do all the world leaders do this?
They're bored. They're LARPing. That is seriously my. They're like, rich people are weird. Powerful people are weird. Yeah. So when you have you're at the very pinnacle of human accomplishment, all this shit that you spend your life chasing, you have a fucking existential crisis. And so somebody's like, let's fucking play Dungeons and Dragons and believe in magic. You're like, I've done everything fucking else. Let's fucking play some Dungeons and Dragons and chant over this and go, oh, let's and fucking speak in tongues and shit.
And that's my point. It's not that I necessarily believe what they believe or none of that stuff. What I'm trying to point out is they believe this stuff. And they are going through these silly rituals or whatever, and they're making people have to go through these silly rituals to gain certain levels of power also. Yeah. I mean, Alan Greenspan, when he got announced for the Federal Reserve, he was at that, very meeting right before that. They
all these people,
weird rituals.
All these people have been in fraternities before, so they already understood. Like, they went to college.
The rituals and the.
And this is just let's amp it up a little bit.
And that's what I'm saying. If you study a lot of, it depends on how you interpret, Hebrew texts and things like that. But a lot of stuff which they're doing would be considered worshiping Satan. Just saying.
Yeah, sure.
So that, I guess I'll leave it there. We got kind of a little deeper into the weeds than I planned to today, but hey, all in good fun.
Wait, let me tie everything up. I
figure we're at about almost 1 hour 30, so about 7 more minutes, and then we'll wrap.
Wait, I have a great short question that both of y'all can give thoughts on. Does Kamala get invited to the Illuminati? Has she already been? And at what point do you get your invitation to go through the dark ritual? When do you get on? Well, Marcus, I'm gonna put you on the spot. When does Kamala get put on to the Illuminati?
I believe already. I believe that when you get on to the level of being influenced around the people who have already been connected, like, for instance, the beginning of the primary, we all felt like Kamala was almost like picked Like the media was always pushing
The
her.
media,
And,
Time Warner were her number one contributors, as a
and
fact.
I felt they were prepping her for that. And I believe it's because they had already started making the moves behind the scenes. And when they got sketched out and nervous with, oh crap, Bernie's about to win. What are we going to do? This is not somebody that's part of playing ball, and and might try to mess up our whole little crazy economic game and weird ritual and all that. Just cabal everything. And I think they were like, okay, we got to figure out something. So they just start throwing everything they could at trying to stop Bernie, and that's the reason why you saw Pete start to rise up, and I feel like they had their eyes on like, okay, we're gonna keep this one right here in the silo just in case, and if Pete, and if she don't, we'll slide Pete in there, and then we'll give him the opportunity, and I think that's how they do it.
Emmanuel, assuming that there is a secret organization or a semi-secret organization of rich and powerful people that runs the world, at what point was Kamala Harris invited to that group?
Well, I would think. Well, I would say either after she became president and she was and she was able to earn like millions of dollars, or already, I know one of you would probably already know this, but Hillary Clinton threw like this big this big meeting, right? And like none of the press was invited, and like it, they did like noise canceling. They put like noise canceling software like everywhere. For the life of me, I honestly always wondered who that person was.
Well, first of all,
what was that for?
First of all, I do feel like every politician gets the talk, and politicians have just openly spoke about this. Like if you read like Warren, she talks about it too. Every politician gets the talk where it's like, listen, you're either in or you're out. And if you're going to be in, there's certain rules that you got to follow. And that's just in terms of like who you criticize and who you kneecapping, when you fall in line, and how much room you have to do your own thing versus like the rule came down and you got to like get on board. So every politician, I think, gets that talk, and they have to decide whether they're in or out. And most of them are like, I'm in, or they have to like navigate, to their own satisfaction. If there is that conversation, I'm sure Kamala Harris had it during her run for United States Senate. Like they don't they don't, because California being what it is, being that kind of dynastic state, and there being a political machine and stuff, I'm sure that they don't put you onto that level unless you at least there's an understanding that you will play ball when it comes down to it. And especially because Kamala, like when she became California's attorney general, people like she ran from the right of the existing attorney general. So yeah, you've got to go and have those meetings with the donors. And also Joe Biden also talked about this. If you find old footage of Joe, he was like, yeah, when I ran for Senate, the first thing I did was I went to the people with the money and was like, will y'all put me on? And they were like, no. So I had to go and do all the people power stuff, to raise money because the donors didn't want me. Like, these are Joe Biden's words. Like, I'm not making this up. This is in the footage.
I have that video on my channel.
Yeah, I wanted to be a prostitute. I went to go prostitute myself and they turned me down. So, and Joe Biden is a funny person because he says stuff like in jest or whatever that's actually reflective of the process and his actual thoughts, which is always entertaining to me. Yeah.
I would say, any thoughts, Manuel?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. You guys want to plug anything before we get out of here? I mean, a couple of things I want to talk to you guys off camera. But anything you guys want to plug before we get out of here?
Oh, yeah. August 28th. Set your date from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Metro Atlanta DSA is doing a telethon with Los Vecinos de Buford Highway. We're going to have games. We're going to have comedy segments. We're going to have panels. We're going to have DJs and music. Like, it's just going to be a whole day raising money for rent relief for the community, especially the undocumented community And that's going to be really dope. Going to be a really good all-day festival. Very looking forward to that. And yeah, my Twitter is at Brandon Buchanan. You follow that, and you can just see whatever I'm up to.
And I want to make sure to catch that Vice thing when it comes out. You got to let everybody know about it.
Yeah, we don't have the
Right.
details yet, but I did record with them, and they said like next month. So they'll probably show promos for it in like 2 or 3 weeks. So when it starts to blow up, I'll be on here like, yeah, boy, come check this shit out. So,
Yeah, can't wait.
Emmanuel, what you got going?
Yeah.
Just the autistic Black Lives Matter thing that's next. It'll be next Saturday at 3. It'll be on Zoom. I'll probably either send Marcus a link or put it up in my Twitter, which is at the Blue Maverick. That's pretty much really it right now, other than the stuff that I do with Marcus. I guess everything else is still at work, still technically a work in progress. So I haven't gotten solidly got a name down or anything like that, but I'm still working on it. So, I mean, that's the only solid thing that I'll be sitting in right now that's got 400 plus people coming. So that's it. Right
Make sure to let us know, and then we can plug that too.
Absolutely.
Let's see. As for me, I got a couple more videos that I'm gonna try to hopefully get out by the end of the day. I put out earlier, if you guys haven't noticed yet, video about Bill Clinton and my thoughts on him coming after Kwame Ture. I know I waited a little while, and then I did one about I've been having a lot of weird followers lately. I know I've been doing these follow back lists, but I'm not a fan of all the resistors.
And no comrade shit, man. A lot of blue wave emojis were in that, so you probably picked up a few.
Yeah, I don't vibe with that.
I didn't think on that either.
Two things coming up besides videos I'm still working on, and I have videos for the Political Matrix I'm working on also, which I just released one on Nick Cannon Get Out. I am working on a couple of interviews. I have an anti-fascist coming on, and we have an interview talking about defund. So we're going to be talking about hashtag defund the police. And then I have an interview I'm still working on. I'm gonna keep it surprise for right now, but it's a big interview. And it would be on Kamala Harris record in entirety.
All right, cool.
Some things you definitely know. Some things I know some of you guys do not know about. This person is very steeped in everything about Kamala Harris, and I'm going to allow them to educate the audience.
That sounds good.
With that said, I guess that's about it. Thank you guys for joining me again, and hopefully, Brandon, we can have you come back again next week. I definitely enjoy having you on here. It's a lot of fun.
We should have you come do my show. Actually, that'll be cool.
I would love to hear that.
I would love to. I would love to work that out and come on your show. Definitely, anytime.
Hell yeah.
Got to figure out the time because I work crazy hours, and I'm on the West Coast.
We might have to do like a pre-tape and then play it at the right time. We'll work it all out.
We'll work it out.
Yeah.
But all right, and this has been what I've been thinking with Marcus Cage, Young Black Leaders Forum. I believe 7. Make sure you guys tune in for 8 and catch the replay if you guys did not catch it from the beginning. Have a good one and stay active out there. And I guess I'll see you guys later on for the Annihilation Cage tonight with my good friend Niall Elcom and Alyssa Vieira. So make sure to tune in there to be 9:30 Pacific. Have a good one.